Hello, and welcome back to the panel. Small business is one of the driving factors for economic recovery, and they are also essential in providing employment for the many job seekers that exist today. Tonight, we will shift our focus to the small business owners, and it's our pleasure to welcome Mr. Christopher Goddard to the panel.
Good evening.
Mr. Mr. Goddard, who is also a director on the board of the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association Credit Union, has a Bachelor of Economics and Finance degree from Barry University and is qualified as a member of the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners at STEP. A former employee of the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, Mr. Goddard is a successful young businessman and owner and director of Winner's Circle, a retail sporting goods store. We will ask him to outline the challenges that his business have been experiencing in the COVID environment and how he has been able to navigate those rough waters. Another special welcome to my two regular panelists, Mrs. Roy Budden and Mary Banks, as we discuss small business survival in the Cayman Islands. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night. It's great to be here.
All right. Just to start off a few questions, Mr. Chris, tell us about Winner's Circle and how it is winning over the COVID pandemic.
Well, the challenges have been real, Ralph. Thank you so much for inviting me on tonight. I want to appreciate everything that you guys do on the panel. But in terms of Winner Circle Sports and the challenges that we have faced as a result of the pandemic, so we're getting some feedback here.
Some feedback, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Yes, I'm Ralph. Yeah. Some of the challenges we face have been in terms of the level of uncertainty. One of the key factors that any business needs in any environment is some level of certainty. And the pandemic brought up many changes, unprecedented changes. We didn't necessarily have, say, precedents we could look back at other times that were similar for us to draw on those experiences. This is like a once in 100-year experience. And I don't think many of us were around 100 years ago that we can draw on that experience. So we had to learn a lot very quickly in terms of the challenges we faced.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. My two colleagues here are going to jump right in and with some questions so we can have a nice conversation on small business and, we'll discuss it. Mr. Roy, Mr. Mario.
Yeah, I just wanted Chris, for the benefit of our viewers, just to give us a brief outline of his business, where you are and what do you do, and how long you've been in operation.
Okay, Winner Circle Sports is located at 12 Walkers Road in Georgetown. We sell branded athletic footwear, clothing, and accessories. We're open from 9 until 5:30, Monday to Saturday. And we have been in business. We started originally actually in 2002. This is our 20th year of operation. We started originally in the center of Georgetown, and due primarily to parking and space issues, we moved slightly to the outskirts of Georgetown. So we're at 12 Walkers Road right now. And now we have a much larger store with more offerings, and we also have parking, which is at a premium in central Georgetown. So we're happy to welcome everyone to come in, see what we have, and we want to ensure that they have a superb customer service experience.
Yeah, and like Mr. Ralph mentioned at the outset, I mean, small business is certainly the bulwark of our economy. And one of the things that I've been noticing, especially with the advent of the growth of Caymanian, the population, and you have the permanent residency and status and all that, and there's a lot more individuals who are going into business. I just wondered if you thought it was any. I'm not a proponent of protectionism necessarily. I like free market economies, but whether you think that there's a need for any kind of moratorium, for example, on businesses or certain category of businesses to ensure that the market is not, or the small pie is not spiced up too small, and whether you thought there's any scope for those kinds of things to ensure that small businesses are not gobbled up, because there's some big players coming in, and there are people that I know. Sadly, I know the people who are getting residency and status, and some of them are finding opportunities and then some people from the outside with loads of money are using those individuals to front for them to come in and really gobble up or crush small indigenous businesses.
Yeah, I mean, it is a what you're asking about is a very, very complex topic. However, as you said, and I tend to agree, I believe in the free market system, and I do believe, I mean, free market with some level of regulation. You do need some regulation in there, not a completely unbridled free market.
Hmm.
However, it is important to understand that competition keeps business people sharp. And
Hmm.
I would say the opposite is also true. If you're a monopoly, you have a tendency to be more complacent. So in our business, we welcome competition to an extent. We understand totally that there'll never be a time when every single person is only going to come to our store. There will always be competition online, competition locally from smaller players, competition from larger players, and that has to keep us sharp. It keeps us nimble, and it forces us to think outside the box within the confines of the regulatory framework that we have to work within. So I would not be in favor necessarily of a moratorium, but I do find that there are a number of business sectors that are absolutely oversaturated, and to some extent, it's really unfortunate because you will find that the market itself shakes out a lot of those players, and many of those businesses end up failing after people put their life savings or something into it. And so I think maybe some prudent advice to the principals beforehand, just explaining what they're really getting into and looking at the macro economy and making a prudent decision with their finances would be wise.
Okay. We'll get to
Before,
Mr. Roy now. So, Roy, could you put on your microphone, please? Thank you. Okay.
Well, I was asking earlier before we came on here, I was asking Chris about if there is in existence a small business association and if that association is active, because it seems to me that one of the ways in which small businesses, and we all agree that those are important. Mario has said, and I concur with him, that they're the drivers of the economy in to a large extent.
Mhm.
One of the advantages small and medium-sized businesses can have is this association of colleagues and persons in these kinds of businesses that can meet and support each other, talk about common problems, for example, um, in terms of employment, in terms of the bureaucracy and meeting the government regulations, what can be done, you know. But as I understood from our esteemed Sir Ralph, that the Small Business Association is not in existence because the people who have to run the association are also business owners themselves. And so therefore they can't afford the kind of time that'd be necessary to make it effective. But I would suggest to you, my friend Chris, that that is something to look towards for the future because it can be a great harm to a lot of the businesses. I'm interested to know what kind of challenges you face in terms of the bureaucracy, government regulations, in terms of employment. You've obviously been in business for 20 years, so you have experience, and I would say you're established. But what are some of the challenges? Is there a challenge in accessing? You have high staff turnover. Is there a challenge in acquiring good people, training good people, or is it the bureaucratic requirements?
Okay, well, the challenges, okay, there are a number of challenges that we face even pre-COVID. The nature of small business is such that the principals normally have to wear many hats. So you don't necessarily have a separate HR department, a separate accounting department, separate logistics department. And what happened, I would say, during COVID, we had a confluence of challenges, that they all came together. You had logistical supply chain challenges. You had HR challenges due to obviously illness, potential illness. Then you had regulatory challenges because the regulations surrounding the illness and so on, the pandemic, they were changing sometimes weekly, daily. So we had to be up to date with all of the regulatory challenges as well. And we had to have I would say, empathy, care, a strong emotional IQ in order to keep your staff with you, keep them focused, understand what they're dealing with at home, appreciate the challenges they're facing. Many of them have, children who had to try to work from home, and they're trying to deal with school from home and so on. That in itself was another challenge for the parents. And so there's so many things that came down in small business. And I mean, for example, we experienced COVID in the past few weeks in terms of our family, and we were down in some instances. Some days we had 3 staff, or in some instances even 2 staff at the store. So that is a particular challenge for small business. If you have a larger entity, say 50 people, and you have 25 or 30 of them down, you can still kind of operate with 25 or 30 remaining. But if you have 4 staff and you down by 2, that's a similar ratio, 50%, and one has to go to lunch or use the bathroom, and you have one in the front trying to deal with customers and deal with cash and deal with everything else. That's a much more acute challenge for the small business. So these are some of the specific challenges that we've faced. I can go on and speak about supply chain and other things as well, but
yeah, we'll come back around to that. But it's clear that your business is probably having the similar challenges that many other businesses are having right now. Of course, with the increase of the positive cases that we have over almost 6,000 people in isolation, it definitely is impacting the labor force. And so I'm sure that that has impacted you, and it's impacted you in more than one way, because of course it can impact you from the commerce part of it, where you have less customers to come in and buy your products. So the question I want to get to is, have you seen an impact on your sales because of the pandemic?
We have seen an impact on our sales. The impact on our sales is actually not what many would have expected. We saw, well, of course, when the pandemic originally started, the sales pretty much, we went into lockdown. So sales went to pretty much zero.
Right.
And during the first couple of weeks, we took time and tried to organize a website where people could go online and order. Well, first of all, we had to go through the bureaucratic hoops of trying to be classified as an essential business. Right. And, so, I mean, being locked down, we continually submitted until we received that status. I mean, because we do sell other things. For example, we sell nurses' uniforms and things like that. And it's hard to argue that, uniforms for nurses at a time like this, that's not an essential service, that some of those things are essential. And people, I mean, one of the things that the government did religiously in every press briefing, they encouraged people to go outside and exercise. So it's hard to say you got to go outside and exercise and not expect that people are going to need, footwear and that type of thing. But at the end of the day, we have to do so in a responsible way within the framework of the regulations and ensure safety, because safety is number one, right? So that in itself is a challenge. And once we achieved that status, we were able to sell by lower tech means, by through WhatsApp, Instagram, and that type of thing, as well as through the website. And we had delivery. We had very strict policies and protocols in terms of sanitization and just overall interaction with our clients. And that was a limited success. We had to try to create some level of income, and then from there, once we opened up a bit more, the government opened up, eased the lockdown a bit, and went into some of their own policies. For example, the pension withdrawal, which is to help people, help tide people over financially. We actually saw a significant increase in business, and I know that is not the case for all businesses. I have to speak about the sector that I'm aware of, but I understand, of course, tourism and those would have taken a significant hit, and my heart goes out to them. But in our particular business, we saw a significant increase, and we also quickly realized that there's an opportunity, because we were then meeting people who lived in Cayman for years, worked in Cayman for years, and never ever shopped in Cayman. So we were able to attract new customers, I guess, because of the inability to travel.
Yeah.
And we saw it as an opportunity. We spoke to the staff and we saw it as an opportunity to say, hey, if we can treat these customers as, show them the fantastic treatment, show them the fantastic products that we have, we can encourage them to shop with us more regularly. And what happened is they came in, they shopped, they had a wonderful in-store customer service experience. They came back, and in many instances, they brought their friends or they told their friends about us. So we were able to grow our local customer base. And that was a significant positive impact for us in the pandemic.
Thank you very much. We're going to go on to Mario. Mario.
Yeah, just follow up on what Roy was asking about the Small Business Association and the support that's available for small businesses and the strength in numbers. Government also, the previous government had started some sort of small business center or something they called it. And even during the pandemic, they were actually assisting small businesses with grants and stuff, during the pandemic. But I'm not sure what that center is doing, whether they're still in operation, what they're doing, because there's certainly a tremendous opportunity still for small businesses to receive counseling, mentoring. I think you said, assistance with business plans, assistance with getting applications for financing and whatnot. So I'm not sure if you know what's happening with that. And the second part of the question is the development bank. In terms of financing available for small businesses, in addition to the commercial banks in the island, the development bank was meant to assist, with industrial and agriculture and small business and student loans and stuff. I wondered if you had any thoughts on those two things, that small business center and also the development bank to assist small businesses.
Yeah, well, I think both should work together. The government can have a small business development center and work in tandem with the development bank, because financing for small business is almost non-existent. Most people who start a small business is through savings, or it may be through loans from friends or something of that nature, or it may be through people, say, retiring from their regular job, getting a lump sum from their pension or something and starting a business. But if you just show up to a bank with a business plan, a regular commercial bank, you have a very limited chance of being able to start a business unless you have significant collateral already in place. But at the end of the day, what banks really look for, they want to see proven cash flows to pay back those loans. And it sounds kind of tongue-in-cheek, but many people who go for a small business loan, they'll show up at the bank and the bank will ask you, you need to show us 2 years of proven financials. And the business hasn't really started yet, or it's nothing significant of that nature. So that's a non-starter for most people. So right out of the box, you're unable to achieve that financing from a financial institution. So I think that is one area where the CIDB could have a place and can offer that seed money and offer that support, because offering money alone with no support, no advice can be, let's just say, can be casting that seed in stony ground.
Yeah.
And grow from that.
Okay. After Mr. Roy gives his piece, I'll give you my piece. As you know, I was a bank manager. I was CIDB manager for 3 years, and I worked closely with the new business center, which is still in operation. But I'll comment on it after Mr. Roy.
See, I was going to say, gentlemen, I'm of the view. I hear all the arguments, as I'm sure you do, about Caymanians not getting a fair shake of our economic development. Economic development. There are some areas that we are completely frozen out, like in terms of major developments, like building condominiums and all that stuff. So I'm of the view that our future as Caymanians, and this is what I used to preach to my students when I was at the University College. I would like to see more Caymanians look at niches that they can carve out for themselves. And it seems to me that small and medium-sized businesses are the way to go, that we can look at, we can find areas that we can do. And to that extent, I wonder, and I see a great scope for development. I sometimes wish that I was the age of Mario, or even a little younger, because I see that there is great scope for the government to help our people in terms of developing things like agri-industries and all that. And I say, gentlemen, I don't know how many of you know, but if you don't, I want you to, when you get off this evening, Google this, Grameen Bank. I would like to see the government set our development bank be something like the Grameen Bank. That's the only bank in the world with a 98% repayment rate, hardly any defaults. They specialize in small business loans, and it's loaning to women in an Islamic country in Bangladesh. And I wonder why we can't devise some institutions and opportunities to help our small and medium-sized business. Because if you listen like I do to talk shows and hear people on the streets, they're saying we are frozen out of the economy. And Chris, you made a good point. If you were to go into a commercial bank seeking a business loan, they literally run you out, because it's impossible for you to produce, if you could produce 2 years worth of financial statements, you probably wouldn't need to go to the bank, because you'd have the acumen to manage your business according to the income you are deriving. So certain avenues are off the limits for our people. I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to always be holding our hands for the trickle down and won't be able to participate in the economy, and that is not good.
Okay.
Correct.
And I'll try my be so Chris as by the way, folks, there's a new board on most of the old directors on the CIDB board has been changed. The new chairman is Mr. Mark Scotland, and so therefore hopefully we'll see some changes. One of the challenges that the CIDB had, of course, was the directive from the authorities to lend the money that they had in their books. Of course, it's a small operation, and they raise funds from bonds and then lend that out. But because of the high delinquency rate, they weren't able to do much of that lending. I remember because I was there, and I can't speak too much about operations, but I understand the challenges that they have. There is a risk involved in lending to small businesses. But the way the development bank was designed, like Chris said, there was a partnership between lending money and finance and counseling. And the counseling part, I think, was not available as it should have been. Regarding years of financials, I want to know what the banks are going to do after we've been shut down for 2 years and someone walks into to get financing, because there has been no operation for the last 2 years for some businesses. So there has to be some level of risk taken and some different means of qualifying for some facilities, and the government needs to have a say in that as well. They have done a number of loans through the same small business center. I think Thais is running that now, and I am planning to have one in the near future, because they're doing things for small business that I know of, and but it needs to have a level of training and monitoring that has to happen, and there has to be a commitment for a number of years. You can't give someone financing for 6 months and expect them to survive. It has to be for at least 3 to 4 years for them to get on their feet, and that's how you look at a real financing operation. So I think that what has to happen is that they have to be very serious about helping small business, and across the board, cannot be any favoritism. Small business. If someone needs some advice, get advice, and that's where it comes. I had a question for Chris. One of our interviews recently, the Chamber of Commerce actually emphasized that their focus is on small business, and they want to make sure that all small business get access to information in training, and that most of their clients or members were actually small business. I'm not sure if you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and if you are, have you seen any trickle-down benefits coming from the Chamber of Commerce? I think he dropped out. We lost him, so hopefully he'll be back in very, very soon and repeat the question. But Mr. Roy, yes,
Ralph, just so you're saying that the small business sector, then, I mean, that comes to they're still in operation and they're active and all that.
Yeah,
Chris is back now.
Yeah, the Small Business Center in the right across from the wharf. This is an operation.
Okay.
Okay.
Chris, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to your question, I'm not a member of the Chamber of Commerce. We were a member for, I think it was a year or two. But at that time, we didn't find that we were getting the representation that we were expecting. That's at that time. I'm not sure about the small business focus that they have now, and how maybe we can look into that and see how that could benefit. At the end of the day, like what Mr. Bodden said, it will always be beneficial for small business owners to get together and speak about the challenges, come up with innovative solutions for those challenges, be them, private sector solutions, or even challenges that, you could be facing with bureaucratic red tape from government as well. So, as they say, iron sharpens iron. It's important to talk about these things, and you'd be surprised to know how many small businesses are sharing the same challenges. Again, during the pandemic, many businesses were looking overseas, trying to find people, trying to source workers. That fortunately for us, pretty much all of our workers, most of our workers are Caymanians, they're locals, so we didn't really have that challenge, and they were very happy for their job. They're very happy to stay with us, and we retained our staff, so we were very fortunate. But there are some other businesses out there who they were looking overseas, and it became a very, very difficult thing for them to get workers find workers on island, to get workers here, to find accommodations for them, and so on. So I understand that's also an acute difficulty. Even pre-pandemic, finding workers on island was a challenge. And one solution that I wish we saw more of is offering, if government and even private sector could have stimulated what I would call the change in the structural unemployment that we had, where there were many people in other sectors that became unemployed, yet more facilitation could have been put in place to have people transition from one job to another. And again, I feel that would have solved a lot of the problem. But however, some people chose to focus more on the stipends as opposed to transitioning people to employment. And there are certain benefits that come with that for certain individuals. But at the end of the day, most people want to experience the dignity of work, and they want to earn their own keep. And that, that is that level of productivity that we want to encourage long term, because success is a habit. It's something you have to do every day. And that is what we want to see our people achieve.
Okay.
Very well put.
Gentlemen, anyone want to
Yeah,
jump in?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mr. Roy.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Chris, I trust me, I couldn't agree with you more. Very well said, young man. You're smart. And that's the weakness, the government. And you can't say this, but I can say it. There's too much politics involved, right? Because the politicians are too quick to entertain their constituents, and they don't want to give them the tough medicine. So I have always wondered, as you made the observation, Chris, why in the pandemic there was not more incidents of cross training. So before we were quick to trot out the stipend, why didn't we say, well, the area that you were working in is closed down now, but why don't you consider this going over here, even until the pandemic is over? But there was too much of a willingness to just trot out the stipend as the be all and end all. And at the end of the day, that is good, but it is not in the best interest, as you have said, my young friend, because there's dignity in labor. It's not in the best interest of the individual to receive a stipend when you could have prepared him for alternate employment.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, just to clarify, I think both would have to run in tandem. You would still have to deal with those immediate financial needs, but you would also have to prepare the person through cross training as well. So I'm not totally against the stipend. Just to clarify.
No, neither am I. Neither am I for that matter, because I saw where it was necessary. But I said it should have been hand in hand with the opportunity to cross train.
Correct. And perhaps even use as an incentive for cross training.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Chris, I really want to thank you though for coming tonight on the show. I mean, you are a role model of a young man. Your mother and father is also great parents. Your father is my math teacher in first form at the high school. I love him, and your mother as well. And I'm so impressed with you and your brothers too. But you as a young entrepreneur, and what I'm hearing though is that I know you've been doing a lot of work in volunteering. I think you sat on the business staffing plan board. I'm not sure if you're on any boards now, but I'm hearing that you're a little bit retreating from the front lines. And I think that someone like you need to be on the front lines because you have so much to offer. I know you're busy with your business as well, and with the pandemic, people had to focus on everything plus all the shutdowns and all that. But I think you need to continue to be out front there with the Small Business Association, with the Chamber of Commerce. Hopefully, you get on some boards that you can offer, your insights, because it's very, very, very important. So with that intro in mind, I just want to ask you then in terms of what Dr. Roy was talking about, the training and whatnot. What do you think about the proposed employer accreditation system that has been kicked around from time you were probably on the business staffing plan board? I know from time I was there in 2005, it was discussed whether the employer accreditation system, which is a system that tries to supposed to reward good employers for things like training and Caymanization and being good corporate citizens, so that they'll get their permits processed, not fast track, but they'll get a much better experience. Things like the employer accreditation system, and the like, whether those are things that small businesses would also benefit from.
Okay, well, thanks for all the kind comments that you offered. It's a pleasure to be here in your esteemed company, yourself and Mr. Bodden and Mr. Lewis. And again, just as you said, you had role models and teachers. I have, people like yourself and Mr. Bodden who I've looked up to, and you all have, you and others have been role models for me. And, so I've tried to follow the good examples set by the stalwarts in our community. And we hope that, we can all set examples for those coming behind as well. And if there's any little inspiration I can offer, some of that is coming from the inspiration that you all offered to me. So thank you all very much for that. But in terms of the accreditation system, I think that there is merit because I think mention was made previously about the changing of some of the boards. And if you change the players and you don't change the game, you're not going to change very much.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I've been somewhat reluctant to, I mean, in some instances, I've been offered the opportunity to consider going on a board. And if the framework is not being changed, I've decided not to go on because I'm not really interested in, as you said, taking time away, valuable time away from your own business to go and rubber stamp something that, you're really not making any true change. You're just a number, you're just a rubber stamping. So until we can make the necessary changes to regulations, then in some instances, I've decided to step back. In other instances, I've decided to step back for personal reasons, and other times just for professional reasons. There's no one person who needs to stay on a particular board for 15, 20 years. At the end of the day, you have to look at renewal. You have to look at bringing others behind you. You have to look at succession planning. And at the end of the day, if I can't try to do that, then I would be failing. I'd be derelict in my duty as a volunteer and as a community-minded individual. So, if I've given the best of my years, my young years, energetic years, 30s and up to mid 40s, then it's time to help groom others to come on board as well. So it's not that I'm totally out of it, but I definitely see the importance of bringing other people, and I have no intention, no desire to hold on to the mantle until I drop dead. So that's not my concept.
Well, I must say, I really appreciate you coming on here, Chris, of course, and also being candid, The panel is about being candid. If you have fear about speaking your mind, the panel is not for you. And that's why we made the panel. And I'm happy that you came in and you lived up to the game, because we need some genuine conversations about the serious matters that we face from day to day. And like you said, rubber stamps need to be thrown away. There's no place for rubber stamps. We're individuals who have intellects that we can make decisions on our own and in a group and make good decisions. We have so much talent in this country, and just sitting here talking, hearing you talk, I think we need to have some more of you and here and more young people who are running their own business. And earlier you mentioned that you don't believe that a business should be dependent on handouts or government, or government subsidies. And I agree. You should have a business model that should be able to generate a profit and perform. But what you need is the environment which the government should create so that you can succeed. And this is where we need to talk about these things and do what we have to do. If there's no one talking about them, it's not going to happen. And so our goal is to stay here, talk about them, because we know they are listening and more listening. And the things we have it recorded, and our listeners can go online if they missed the first part, and they can revisit the recordings. And because we have a lot to say and a lot to hear. And sometimes I just sit and just listen, but what you've said, is like gospel to my ears.
Yes.
Yes. It's refreshing. It's refreshing.
Okay. Well, I mean, as a small business owner, time is premium. And I mean, some of the immediate solutions that come to mind, and again, some of these are very small and simple, but they're important. For example, there are times when you're calling particular entities in government for information pertaining to your business, and just nobody answers the phone. So you end up, you're calling, you're checking, and this, checking on things, and that could take hours out of your day just trying to check on one particular thing. You see, so something as simple as that makes a big difference, because you could be spending that time more productively. Another thing is, for example, business licensing. We've been in operation now 20 years. It would be wonderful if we could fill out a form, submit it, and get a 3-year license. I mean, is that so difficult, or do we have to continually do this every year? And even if you have to pay the fee up front, so the front-loaded fee, that's great for government coffers, and we just fill out the paperwork once. You see what I'm saying? So some of these things could cut down on the red tape. One thing that I know the government is working on, which would be very helpful, that's a customs online system. If we're able to pay online, you don't have to take time, to go up to customs to go and make that payment and so on. That would be very helpful as well. Again, and the CIDB portion of it that you mentioned, if they're able to offer some small business financing and so on, these are some of the solutions that we can look at. And you don't necessarily have to be appointed to a board to offer those solutions. So if you say they're listening to the panel, there are a few suggestions that they can consider.
And what I would say before I let Mario and Roy jump back in, I think that we need to give Caymanians chances. Financing is a decision made by the lenders, and they're based on risk. Yes, the small business may be high risk, but we have to look at Caymanian small business owner in a different spectacles, because we have to give them a chance, and we have to say, what, these people have nowhere to go. This is their home. We have to give them a chance. They may not have all the boxes ticked or all the assets that they need, but you know what, this person is genuine. He works hard. He may not have a family, a lot of cash, but he works hard, and has a good idea. He's an entrepreneur. He just needs a little push. And sometimes we have to give people a chance to succeed in their country, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure, Mr. Lewis. I can speak to that specifically. I have a couple of friends who are into the trades in terms of plumbing, electrical, those types of technical trades. And you would be surprised. Some of them, they can get you excellent references to show that they know their job. They've been working in that job for years. And sometimes it's just a situation where they need to, $2,500 or $5,000 to buy tools to get started. And they will approach financial institutions and they will not get that assistance. So it's not like starting a business for, say a plumber or an electrician or so on necessarily needs a whole, you don't need 100 or 200 or $300,000. Sometimes it's literally a micro loan that should be able to be paid off, say, within the first year. And
Which
that's in many instances not available. And one solution that came to my mind is that although we know the real estate market is booming now, and that is a low-hanging fruit for many financial institutions. Let's make some mortgages, and bring in a good amount of money. At the end of the day, each financial institution may be encouraged to ring fence a certain portion of their balance sheet and say, well, listen, okay, we have this money available for lending. We're going to put aside, 2% or 3% of what we have for small business financing. And I think that would encourage, at least if the funds are available, then that would encourage people to go in and apply. And we can look at some relaxed criteria as well, because having the funds available and making it not inaccessible is also a waste of time. So we have to look at the regulatory framework around that and see what would make sense and make those funds accessible for people who need it.
Mario?
Yeah, I want to also recognize Ralph for his vision also in starting up the panel. I mean, this show is all about, as Ralph mentioned, candid discussions on a broad range of topics. And so we have been lacking this kind of thing for years and years in the Cayman Islands. And he reached out to myself and Mr. Roy Bodden. And we're analysts, but we're volunteers. We're not getting paid for this. This is all voluntary because we feel strongly about engaging in dialogue and high level discussions on a broad range of issues. It helps build a nation, right?
Correct.
So but I also want to say to those people who are watching, businesses and whatnot, that we also are looking for sponsors and advertisers on the program, so we can do more with the program, and Ralph has some great ideas about linking it with other social media as well. So I think we're looking for that. But it's a great thing. So Ralph, thanks very much for doing this and for the opportunity. But Chris, I want to go back to you and look at again. I'm sorry to show all these roses your way tonight, but I think I need to, because you have demonstrated to us tonight that when you said about you can change the players, but if the game isn't changed, we're just spinning in mud, as the old people say, spinning top in mud. And you're a man after my own heart, because I have the same kind of discipline and same kind of conviction. If you don't have a vision and strategy that is aligned, you can have you can have Solomons on your boards. You're not going to make a difference. But if the government or whoever has the vision and the strategy, then somebody sitting on the board can really make a difference and not just go there, make up a number, warm seats, collect a stipend for attendance and rubber stamp things. But my question to you in relation to tonight's discussion, though, after that preamble, is e-government. Do you think that e-government, where government is moving to a lot more online stuff, some of it is user-friendly, some not very user-friendly, but do you think that is something that small businesses can embrace and can cope with, or do you think there's need for some sort of incubation for small businesses with the e-government or e-commerce platforms? And I have a second question as well. I'll let you run with that one until I come back.
Okay. Well, the e-government, I think the e-government in general has been helpful. I think it cuts down on the contact that's necessary before you'd actually have to go to a government office to get certain things done. The e-government has been quite efficient. I mean, for example, driver's licenses, that has worked quite well for us. Department of Commerce and Investment, they have a portal that has worked quite well for us. Even the uploading onto the customs system, that has worked quite well for us. We'd like to see more of that, because again, you're not stuck in traffic, you're not spending a whole lot of time, and you can do things in many instances outside the standard hours of 9 to 5. So definitely e-government has assisted us significantly as small businesses.
My second question then of the two-part question, the second part is in relation to fronting. Now, we have this economic substance regulations that we've came out and signed up to in relation to making sure that you have sufficient activity on island for certain people in certain industries to be able to prove that, and that's what a European Union-driven initiative on economic substance. But I want to get back more to local business in terms of fronting. Do you think that there is any way of us being Cayman and policymakers and analysts like ourselves to suggest anything that will actually prevent or crack down on fronting, which potentially is hurting a lot of small businesses in Cayman Islands as well?
Yeah, again, that's I see the challenge with regards to fronting. However, um, that is also it's a two-edged sword to an extent, because again, there are many people out there who have many Caymanians who have a dream of getting into a business but cannot get that financing. So they end up going to somebody who is willing to front, right? But in terms of provide the finance, and they're fronting for them because they have somebody else with the money, and they end up getting to an extent the crumbs. And it's very unfortunate, but I think a part of the solution is if funding was available to help develop small business, because small businesses can inevitably grow into larger businesses, and you don't necessarily need to have those coming in with a big lump sum of money to front. So in terms of regulation, it is very difficult, because those things, fronting is something that's based on personal relationships, and that is something that is a business relationship, but it's also, you have to trust the person that you're working with, and that is something that, unless you have some type of inside information, it will be challenging to manage it. And even economic substance regulations will, because you do have economic substance on island, even in a business where someone is fronting. So I'm not sure if that would necessarily curtail that activity, but I do agree that it has hurt the market in many instances. Yeah.
Mr. Roy.
Yeah, I want to get back to the business of providing funds, startup, for small businesses, because it's been something that has intrigued me from the time of Governor John Owen was here. And I wrote to him. As a matter of fact, I have the correspondence, and I detail it in my last book, From Guardhouse to the Glass House. I know that there is money available for small businesses from international organizations. But my question is, why cannot our government here set up an effective system through the development bank that we can have our small business entrepreneurs access micro business loans, and not only access the micro business loans and just leave them cold turkey, but provide the support system. First of all, help them to make a business plan, help them to structure the operation of their business, because, and Chris, you might be able to speak to this, I see a lot of people go into business and they don't understand. They run the business out of their back pocket, and as soon as there's a little bit of cash in the pan, they take it out and go to Miami or go somewhere else, and they don't have the discipline to know that, no, that is not how you're supposed to operate. You pay yourself a salary, and that is it. If that salary is to earn $100 for the month, if that's what the business can afford, that is it. But you're not supposed to take that money out. So what I would like to see, and I know it's available, is that the government to set up some funds these people can access, but not only give them the funds, but also give them the discipline, show them how to operate the books, the QuickBook system, and give them the discipline to know that it's your business, but it's not your money. The money is for the business. And so that's one of the things that if we had direct taxation, they wouldn't be able to do, because they would have to give an account to the tax man for every penny that goes into that business. And you wouldn't be able to take it out and put it in your back pocket and go buy a ticket and go to Miami. So I still say that I would love to see that. And I know it can work, because it worked for the Grameen Bank. It can work for us here too. And that would be a way in these tight economic times, because there are some areas that Caymanian entrepreneurs will not be able to get in because the startup requirements are prohibitive, and they won't be able to get that from a commercial bank because they don't have the collateral or they don't have the cash to back it up. But we can get into small business stuff. I mean, I see avenues. Why aren't we into things like making jams and jellies and all this kind of thing? We talk about tourism opening up now. There are a million restaurants. These kinds of entrepreneurial opportunities should be available.
Absolutely. And as you said, like United Nations, the IMF, there are a number of international organizations that have funds available. I'm not sure if we would have to go through the UK in terms of getting that. I'm not sure if Cayman can access those directly, but I think that if we search and if we make it a priority, and I guess that would come from something like a small business association lobbying the government, because sometimes it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Sure.
So sometimes you have to cry out in order to get that assistance. And I think at the end of the day, that would definitely help. Some access to funding would definitely help some of the younger people and some of the other people coming up. Another point I'd like to make too is that I think that there is a real opportunity for something like a small business association to get into the schools and have business clubs in the schools, because trying to teach the concept of business to someone who already has certain habits established at, say, the age of 21, 22, 23 is a lot more difficult than if you can get into the schools and teach them from 12, 13, 14, 15 coming right up. And some of the best staff that we even have now, not even in our store, they were working with us part-time from the time they were 13, 14, 15. And they learned the work ethic, and they learned that the commitment, the discipline, the hard work, they're the ingredients of success. And that is ingrained in them by the time they're 18. So they can start to achieve success on a regular basis and not just survive in the work world, but thrive. And so you have to start from young, and even younger than what many people think. And that is why one of the commitments we make as a company is to bring young people in. Anytime you come to our store, especially on a Saturday or times when young people are off, you will find that we have young Caymanian staff working with us.
Yes,
And that
yes.
we've done that from the beginning, from the first day we open our doors up until now. And it has paid dividends for us, and more importantly, it has paid dividends for them. And most importantly, it has paid dividends for our community, because we've seen them rise up through that time, and they've become successes in various fields. And we know where they started, and it makes us feel proud.
That's
So
excellent. That's excellent.
Good job. Good job. One of the things that I've noticed during the pandemic is that there's so many small businesses, what Roy calls the micro businesses, but micro businesses, cottage industries that have sprung up. People have done things to survive, right? The farming, the backyard farming, the jams and the crafts and the services that people do. But a lot of the issue is that a lot of these cottage industries, they don't have any way of promoting their business. There's no, so that's where I think the small business center and small business association, although need to really get their act together, because there's tremendous opportunity to build our nation from the bottom up. But these small people need some help with not just mentoring and funding, but also promoting their business and getting the word out and getting some discipline about how to sell and all those kind of basic things, and it's a tremendous opportunity, and we need to do something about it, all of us.
yeah, true.
I am a very optimistic person, and a couple of months ago, we had a very talented young man who's going to be the next Chamber of Commerce president. That's Mr. Shamari Scott, and he did say that definitely he'll be focusing on small businesses, and I trust he will be doing that. I think we have good potential to go the right direction, and there are investors who have shown an interest in investing in the same funding arrangement for small business that we talked about. And so these people exist in the Cayman Islands who are willing to work with small business. The task is just get them together. Many times we have too much conflicts of interest, and that affects our decision making and our decisions. But there are people who I know I can trust and I know very well who have small business interests at heart and will work hard. It's just that we have to keep them on their toes and remind them where the road is from time to time, so that we can get what we can achieve the goals that we're talking here for young people, young Caymanians, young entrepreneurs to get what they need to move forward and to get to your level of success.
Okay, well, Shamari Scott is a trailblazer. I have full confidence in his ability, and I'll definitely give him a call. If because currently I'm not involved with the chamber, but I'll definitely give Shamari Scott a call. He's somebody who has a proven record of success, and I only look forward to more great things from Shamari. So I look forward to great things from him wherever he's at. So if it's at the chamber, I'm sure he's going to achieve great things there as well.
Okay.
So,
Especially
As we wrap up, sorry, Mario, go right ahead.
I was saying, especially with Chris's help and involvement, he's definitely going to do well. I have one quick final question, which if you can answer in 30 seconds. If you could name one thing, Chris, that the immigration work department could do tomorrow to help small businesses in a meaningful way, what would that be?
okay, what I would say is in my limited experience with immigration, because we really don't have a lot of permits. But however, I have attended meetings and so on and been on the boards there. We're finding what I saw is that many of the small businesses actually get the stick, and many of the larger businesses get the rubber stamp. And if you look at the percentages of permits granted, you'll find that larger businesses that go through, say, business staffing plan, it is over 95% of those permits that are approved. And many of those that are denied are approved upon appeal. And the smaller businesses who really genuinely need maybe one person or two people in their business have a difficult time in many instances getting that permit. And sometimes you need that person to come in because they have certain skills and they can help the business elevate. They can also teach things to other people as well. And there are times when I would say smaller businesses get the stick. So if there's one thing that could change, I think it would be to really look at the equity in the permit approvals for small businesses compared to sometimes the hundreds that are rubber stamped for larger businesses.
Mr. Roy, any final words?
Well, the only final word is that all of us have agreed. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged encouraged but not surprised by the insight that Chris has, by his openness, by his willingness, and I would like to see him used really as a mentor and advisor. And like I say, I mean, by the age of Mario, I think this is so important that I would go and start this myself, because I say again, gentlemen, that the way out for us to get our fair shake or even a slice of this economy is we have to create more entrepreneurs among our Caymanian people.
Yes,
absolutely. And the real solution, Mr. Mario, to your question is we need to make sure that training is available for our people, because I understand there is a work permit system and there's a certain revenue that the government derives from that. However, the true solution is what Mr. Borden is also saying, that we have to unlock the success and the ability of our human capital. And training our people and having them live up to their maximum potential is truly where the resilience of Cayman and to me, I would say the providence of Cayman really will come from. It has to be from our human resources. People say we don't produce anything, we produce people, and we have to make sure that they achieve excellence in all that they set out to achieve. So that's our job. Let's set up that framework.
Yes.
And let's achieve that success, and I think we'd be well on our way.
Well said, Chris. Well said, Chris. I want to thank you for coming. But before I say my final goodbyes, I'd like to give a real shout out and appreciation to our support team. In the background, we have Lance in Toronto, who's running the stream. We have his bigger brother, Leonard in Cayman, who is also working with our technical side. In our graphics and design, we have Liana family, who is helping us keep this panel going and will be here for the future. I want to thank them very much.
You're a true exemplary of family business.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Chris, I want to thank you for coming on the panel. I've really learned a lot, and I think my co-host can testify to that. I want to welcome you back, and anytime you feel, people like you are what make us do what we do. And so we want to encourage you to continue doing what you're doing, be successful. I remember when you were opposite the courthouse, with your store, and now you're in the bigger premises right across from Kimanian Times office. But I really watch your work, and you're so committed in the morning or day before everyone was up and opening up, and that's really good. So I testify to what you are made of, and I encourage you, and I wish you much success. To our listeners and our viewers, thank you for coming on board with us and watching us. And please share the likes and encourage your friends to log on every Thursday night at 8 for this wonderful show, The Panel. And if you missed it, you can always log on to the Facebook page or YouTube channel and watch the rebroadcast. Thank you on behalf of my friends. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.